On Two Wheels this week, a ride on Yamaha's brand new R6. Jeff spends the day with biking legend Sammy Miller, and Wayne checks out some fancy new helmets at this year's Trade Expo. Not that many years ago, if you wanted to brag about impressive performance figures, you'd have had to have owned a bike of at least 750cc, possibly even bigger. Nowadays, things have changed considerably, and you don't need anywhere near that size of bike to stay well ahead of the rest. You can do it all with just 600cc's. It is without doubt the most popular class, and certainly the one which the major manufacturers contest most fiercely. In 1997, Suzuki launched the GSX-R 600, which very quickly gained a healthy respect from the rest of the pack. And in 1998, Kawasaki launched the new ZX-6R, a 600cc rocket which claimed a fantastic 108 brake horsepower. And so, the others were bound to follow. And the 1998 International Bike Show gave us the first chance to admire the latest contenders from Honda and Yamaha. The new CBR 600 and of course the R6. Both bikes claiming very impressive figures, 166 miles an hour top speed on the CBR against 168 miles an hour estimated on the R6. Both claim 108 brake horsepower, and the price is very similar. £6,300 buys you a new CBR 600 and £6,500 puts an R6 on the road. So nothing in it on paper. Now then, which one shall we try first? Eeny, meeny, miny... Oh, looks like it's the R6. Once aboard the R6, there's no mistaking that you're aboard a high-performance racing machine. The riding position sees to that. It's designed to push you as far forward as possible, stretching you over the tank and tucking you in behind the small screen, which I have to say is a little too small to offer any kind of decent protection from the wind blast. And oh how it blasts when you open the throttle. The rush of power from about 7,000 revs is quite simply irresistible. Awesome, tremendous, mind-blowing, and any other words you can think of that mean fantastic. Yamaha's designers have used the know-how from their class-leading R1 to make the R6 into the awesome performer that it is. That's twice now that I've used that word awesome. Now Honda have had a CBR family for a few years, and now Yamaha have an R family. There's of course the R1, this R6, and don't forget the very exclusive R7. Now although all these bikes were born from the same drawing board, none of them actually share any major parts. So the R6 is definitely not a sleeved down R1 or R7. It does, however, share some of the same design features as the R1. The engine is a stressed member, and like the R1, the gearbox is in a slightly unusual place. It's high up at the back of the engine, stacked up at the top there. Normally it's down, low and behind the crank. You can see it popping out here, and the linkage goes through the frame. There, you see there, to allow you to select the gears. And the crankcase again is a one-piece unit. Helps to keep the engine physically smaller and lighter, and it also adds some stiffness to the frame. It's a new frame, a Delta Box 2, and for the first time on a production bike, they've cut holes in the frame, all to help save weight. Because the engine is shorter, that way the swing arm is actually fairly long. It looks quite long. Right up at the back of the engine here, big beefy thing, heavily braced once again to add stiffness, and it's supposed to improve traction out on the road. Everything about the R6 is designed to save weight. The engine is as free-running as possible, using low-friction bearings and lightweight valve springs. The spark plugs each incorporate an ignition coil for the bike's direct ignition system. The head has been gas-flowed, and the four large 37mm carbs are assisted by a ram air system, which improves the mixture at speed by pushing in more oxygen and so boosting power. Yamaha say that at 155 miles per hour, it boosts power by 10%. Hang on. 10% more power at 155 miles per hour? Well, how on earth are we supposed to check that? And who in their right mind is going to ride an R6 at 155 miles per hour? Not many, I suspect. But one thing's for sure, with all that power on tap, you definitely need some serious stopping ability. The brakes are lifted straight off the R1, and up front we've got a pair of 295mm discs gripped by 4-pot calipers, and I'm going to use that word again. They're awesome. Suspension on the R6 is fairly basic really and uncomplicated. At the front we've got 43mm conventional forks, and interestingly the designers say that upside down forks would be too rigid and too heavy for a 600. Rear suspension is of course a monoshock, fully adjustable, but it is somewhat larger than a unit that you would find on a standard 600cc bike. And I'm reliably informed that you can take that off, junk it, do whatever you want with it, sell it and replace it with a high-spec race unit. But I doubt that you'll see many R6 rear suspension units on the second-hand shelf. One of the priorities in designing this bike was to keep things as light as possible. At 169 kilos, which is 370 pounds in old money, and with a wheelbase of just 138 centimetres, the R6 is a fantastic bike for blasting through the twisty lanes. The 6-speed gearbox is smooth and very positive, and the rush of power that starts at about 7,000 revs continues to over 14,000 when it starts to fade just a little before hitting the red line at 15,500. This bike really could be every boy racer's dream. It's a boy racer alright, but I don't really think it's very much else. It goes as good as it looks, and I'll say it again, awesome. That's about 5 times now, but seriously, it does look fantastic. But if you're thinking of splashing out on an R6, you need to make sure you're buying it for all the right reasons. Now, if you want to go very fast and be the envy of every wannabe racer, then okay. If, on the other hand, you like a little bit more comfort, perhaps need to take a pillion from time to time, or maybe want to carry some luggage for that bike tour that you've always promised yourself, then an R6 might not be your best bet. It's a single-minded, very focused performance machine, and it does what it was designed to do superbly well. But it's not your only choice, because Honda have a new CBR 600, which they reckon is just as impressive. Well, we'll see about that next week.
Sammy Miller, that famous trials rider from days when bikes really were bikes and sounded like them, can often be found demonstrating his trials prowess on a replica of his famous 500 Ariel. But he's also got some rather nice collectibles in his fabulous New Milton Museum.
Now, MV Augusta, this isn't the latest incarnation. This in fact goes back 25 years, but it's still a sophisticated bike. 4-cylinder, 16-valve cylinder head. It was the business in its time. But behind me here in the Sammy Miller Museum, there's all sorts of interesting machinery, racing machinery and bikes going back to the early 1900s. We're going in there, we're going to see the man himself, who isn't a relic, and that is Sammy Miller. Well, I was going to take you inside until Sammy Miller, the man himself, came outside to see me instead, and he's been out playing on this thing. Because you can't resist this, can you, Sam?
Oh yes, Jeff, we like to sort of run the bikes. Most of the bikes work in the museum, about 95% of them. When we rebuild them, we put them up together. This is a 750 MV, 16 valve really. I think it's the only known 16 valve MV in the world, so it's quite good for the museum. We ran it in the TT last year, in the Classic Lap, and the Ulster Grand Prix. We've ran it at Bewley, Castlecombe, all over the place. So really it does work well, and it is quite a fast bike, and it was really built for Imola. 200 miles Imola road race, which was really the start of the Superbike Grand Prix, and Agostini and lots of the superstars rode in the Imola, and this was one of the bikes.
So there's a fair bit of history to this one, but I mean, it's fair to say, because I've had a crib of your catalogue, but you've got some absolutely magic bikes in there, and you've specialised in racing history, haven't you, really?
Well, I was always, a competitor, I road raced and trialled and scrambled and grass tracked and sand raced, everything, so I always think it's nice for the public to see classic racing bikes up close. They can come and have a look at them, whereas generally they just see them whistling past on the circuits, and they can have a look round and technical details, and I think it's one of our hallmarks of our museum that we sort of specialise in exotic racing machinery and prototypes and one-offs that are really technically advanced.
Technically advanced perhaps better describes his collection than does the term museum piece. Take this 1938 500 V4 AJS for instance. Water-cooled, supercharged, overhead cam. Ridden by Walter Rusk, it lapped the Ulster GP course at 100 miles an hour, and that was 60 years ago. Streamlining took on a whole new meaning with this Norton Nealer, a one-off Manx Norton racer with bodywork courtesy of aircraft makers Short Brothers and Harland. Ridden by Ray Am, it averaged 133 miles an hour for 1 hour at the French circuit of Montlhéry, but it was later banned due to the effects of side winds. Looks comfy though. Another AJS, this time the more famous 1950s Porcupine, nicknamed as such due to the spiked finning on the cylinder head of the 500cc double overhead cam twin, it too was designed for a supercharger. Sammy has a soft spot for this 250 Mondale. This is the 1957 Italian works bike that took him to third in the World Championship. Double overhead cam and a 7-speed box, he even led that year's TT until his gearbox locked up on the last lap. However, he freed it and still managed to finish fourth. A famous name this, BSA, made this amazing world-leading MC1 in 1954. Double overhead cam single, 4-valve, twin-carb, magnesium engine cases, leading link front forks, but short-sightedness meant it was never developed. A great pity because Sam says it goes really well. If alloy tubular frames on the Triumph 595 and 509 looked very new in 1997, imagine how this all-alloy beauty looked in 1951. Designed and made by Ernie Earls, complete with his leading link front forks, it was only an uncompetitive BSA engine that let it down. Bringing things more up to date is this 500cc Kawasaki GP bike, but I'll let Sam explain.
Monocoque construction, Jeff. You see the tank is actually heavy gauge, something like 10 gauge aluminium, which is literally the frame, and the engine hangs in the bottom of the tank, as it were.
You don't want to bit in this one.
Not really, not really. And 504,
yeah.
And of course, you know, you've got your disc valves. If you have a look in there, you can see straight into the cranks.
Yeah.
Didn't really perform as well as the 250 and 350 Kawasaki's, but I like it because of the anti-dive forks.
Another favourite of Sam's is this 250 NSU Sportsmax that he rode in his first GP, and finished second in the process. All-enclosing bodywork made for a cosy office, as Sam terms it. Away from racers, there are also equally interesting road bikes, like this V4 Villiers 2-stroke, and just to show it isn't all polish and paint, this old 4-cylinder OEC with 200,000 miles under its wheels is an example of the machines offered to the museum. But with a fully equipped workshop and a wealth of knowledge, even the most run-down or obscure bikes can be brought back to life. Because forget any thoughts of fustiness. This is a collection of the enthusiast sharing his enthusiasm with the public. A gallery of motorcycle development would perhaps be a better description. Don't miss it.
After the break, Wayne's at this year's Trade Expo.
That's my little job done. Not often I have to put pen to paper, but I have filled a registration form in, which allows me to visit the Trade Expo for 1999. What is a Trade Expo, you might ask? Well, we've done this before on Two Wheels. We've visited this place and we found quite a lot of fascinating and new accessories to the bike game. The fact is, it's not a bike show like you and I generally know it and visit. It's different. It's different in respect that there are very few motorcycles to see, because it's basically for the buyer in the trade to come and look at all the new 99 products, put his order in, and so they're on the shelves for you to see during the course of the year. Now, there's quite a lot of new and exciting things to see, and I'm quite keen to see them. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll probably see you later. Last year, I got fed up with it, and I'm sure an awful lot of traders got fed up with it, of people asking for flip-up fronted helmets. Now, on the market as we speak, and available to you to buy, is the BMW System helmets. And there's quite a few of those. They've gone through the System 1, System 2, System 3, and I believe now we're on the System 4, which has a removable front as well as a lift-up front, and quite a sexy bit of kit, but an awful lot of money. Now, Nolan came on the market this year and they introduced this helmet to sell for 230 quid. Beautifully designed, beautifully made, a little bit limited in availability. So obviously many manufacturers have decided to hit the British market with their products, and the importers have had a task, but I believe they've resolved it, and that is to get them through BSI. Now here's one that indeed will be available around March for you to buy, and is a rather tasty bit of kit. What is good about this particular helmet is, and I believe it's very important this, it's simply activated and lifts with one press of a button rather than a clip either side. This particular model has got something written on here and refers to silent design. Don't know whether that means that the guy who actually designed it didn't have a lot to say, or whether the idea is it's going to be very quiet. Well, that remains to be seen. But a nice bit of kit that. There is a brother to this particular helmet, and that's this one. Seems quite nice and lifts up quite nicely, but it is two catches, one either side. And I really do believe that that probably will be a bit of a pain. But having said that, it's nice looking and everything, stylish, looks sleek, snap fastener the lot. And that'll be available very, very soon with its brother on the shelf, probably around the March area. Probably through your Frank Thomas dealerships, because it's imported through Frank Thomas, and you never know, maybe somebody else's shelf. But I've got to show you this one. Look at that. And it's just the job for you with your R1, R6, or the posers with the R7. Do you know, I do like my gadgets and fancy little things, and I believe you'll like this. It's something that is related to safety, and it's fancy as well. You've seen them, sort of. You know when you see these fins on the top of a crash helmet that various racers use, and now a lot of lads are having fitted to the helmets, and you think, look at them. Well, there's a reason for it. It's an aerodynamic related thing, but that's not why people put them on a road helmet. They do that because it looks good. Well, check this out. This is a high visibility brake light, high as you're going to get on your bike, because it goes on your helmet. Okay, how does it work? Well, you don't have a fancy wire going all the way down to your bike or anything like that. Oh no, no, no. Very clever, very technical. I shall demonstrate if I can. This is high tech, this. We are simulating. This is fitted to a part of your bike, comes off your brake light activation. And imagine that I am riding down the road as we speak now, and I put my brakes on. There we go. No wires, as if by magic. And something as fancy as that, would you believe, will, when it comes in soon, very soon, will cost you around 30 quid. Not bad, eh? I might just have one for myself. I'm just having a well-earned rest, a little sit down. But before I fall asleep, I need to tell you about these helmets. The reason being is, it's VMAR, it's a name of the past. VMAR's been going for years and been available to you to buy for years. But the difference is, this is a completely new range of helmets and a new importer as well for 1999. And I think they've got the job sussed. It's a good range, starts fairly low, much less than £100. They do go up to 160, 70 quid, but I tell you what, you get a lot of helmet for your money. What do you get, you might ask yourself? Well, I'll show you. First of all, this, the flagship. Look at that. Just as I've spoke of already with the lift up front and the various brands that are available. This is nice in respect that it is a single-handed operation, and in fact, the device that the button you press to flip it up is like hidden. So you've got no nasty, horrible mechanisms to look at. In fact, when it's down, as you can see, it looks nearly like a full-face helmet. What's special about this is a few little features. First of all, it's got a washable and breathable liner, and you can remove it and stick it in the wash. I like that as well. I mean, let's be fair, you wash your barnet every day. How often do you wash your helmet liner out? A lot of helmets you can't. Well, this is one of the few that are now available that you can. Quick snap fastener, well, that's fair enough. There's nothing special about that. What I like is, it comes as standard with a tinted visor, a 50% tinted visor. In addition to the 50% tinted visor, it's anti-fog as well. All right, so you'd imagine that therefore will be expensive. Would you believe you can get replacement visors for around 20 quid? Oh, it's looking good all the time. It's not the only one in the range. As I say, they start for less than £100 and they creep up to this. But there's one that I think you would like. And you would find it hard to believe that Street Fighter style helmet Smartsville, definitely smart. I believe it will be very, very popular. Would you believe you can buy that for around 120 quid? Yep, not half bad, eh? We've spoke about laser helmets many times before. In fact, those avid viewers have even seen us visit the factory over in Belgium. I enjoyed it. I don't know whether you did, and I don't really care, but I had the Belgian beer. Thoroughly enjoyed it. There's not many changes, not really, but there is a lovely bit of paint jobby on here. Look at that, that's the business. The Pirate. All right, and you can have that for 70 quid. Let's just move on a bit. This one's been out a while as the Falcon, but new paint patterns and so on. New visor pod on the side. It did have a little lever action before, which wasn't complicated, but people used to cock it up a bit. But now it's real easy, just pull this off and the visor comes off dead easy. And I don't know if you're aware of it, on these visors, when it comes down, when it actually comes on that last click, it goes backwards. Sits real nice and tight against the seal. It's a good point actually with these laser helmets. And you'll pick one of these up for 130 quid. Just come here, I need to show you this. This is unbelievable. Look at that. Now we've done already a number of flip up fronts, but just check this baby out. This is unique in every sense of the word. First of all, this doesn't just look the business, it works. It's got a filtration system in there. When you breathe into that, no matter how hard you breathe, all that happens is your breathing air comes out of here. Yeah, amazing. Then this is obviously removable, you may not want it on, so it comes off with the poppers, okay? And you've got just a regular flip up front helmet. But it's not regular, oh no, no, no. Apart from it looking the business and really funky, can you see my hand? There we are, that's sooty with no clothes on. Now then, just check this out. By just pulling this down here, it's gone, because there's a tinted visor behind. Fantastic idea. Now it's actually a snowmobile helmet, but I can see these being used on the road, but they're not legal yet.
On Two Wheels next week, a ride on Honda's latest 600cc rocket, their new CBR. And Wayne checks out even more gear at this year's Trade Expo.